The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Good evening and welcome to Bronxtalk. Tonight's program is about something personal and really all too common. As Americans and Bronxites live longer, we all have a mother, father, aunt, uncle, sister, brother, friend, or someone else that we are close with who is elderly. And as they get older, happily, many are able to stay active and care for themselves. But longevity also often means a decreasing level of competence and capability, and accordingly, often a resultant decaying of quality of life. But tonight's guests maintain that their range of supports and services can slow that process so that your loved one can maintain a higher quality of life for a longer period of time. But too often, for a variety of reasons, the reach of some of those services don't get where they can do the most good. So we're going to talk with JASA tonight about senior citizens, about isolationism, and all the resultant issues. If you'd like to weigh in with a personal anecdote or have questions about services or anything else, then don't hesitate to call in, 718-960-7241, or you can email questions or comments to us at bronxtalk@bronxnet.org, and we read those on the air during a future edition of our program. But for the here and now, from JASA, the Jewish Association Serving the Aging, it's JASA's Director of Programs, Amy Chalfie. Good evening. Thank you for joining us. And JASA's Bronx District Director and the Director of Mental Health Services, Danielle Palmisano. Good evening. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Let's start with you, Ms. Chalfie, and just kind of characterize the senior population in New York. How many seniors do we have in the city? How many in the Bronx? Give me a whole kind of picture of the senior citizen population.
We have about 1.2 million older adults living throughout the city.
Okay.
And in the Bronx, we have approximately
200,000.
200,000. So
Yes.
a little less than maybe a fifth.
Yes.
And that, you could do the population numbers, 200,000 seniors in the Bronx out of our 1.2 million people. That's still quite a number.
Yes.
So the real question is, out of the 200,000, can we estimate how many do you feel like are still not being reached with services that they probably could utilize and do well with?
Well, we know we serve about 6,500 in the Bronx. And we know of that number, about 30% are people who have some issue around social isolation. And social isolation is different than living alone or solitude. It is about not being connected to your neighbors, not being connected to your family, not having that kind of very important relationship that's meaningful to you. And that puts a person at risk. And recent studies have found that it puts a person at risk for physical disease. It affects sleep, it affects your blood pressure, it affects your immune system, it affects depression.
Do the people, and I talked very briefly and very superficially about, the loss of various types of cognition with the senior citizen. Do you think those, and you said 30% of the 6,500?
About 30%.
Do you think the people who are living in this isolation situation are aware that they're isolated, or are they like, well, this is just how life is, in other words, and they're somewhat unaware that there is a life outside and things they might do?
Well, I think it varies. I think it varies with an individual's personality and their cognitive state. But we know that it affects people's cognitive state also. People who are isolated have a harder time sustaining their
Like a
cognitive
ball
health.
rolling down the mountain.
Yes,
It
it's like
gets
a
worse and worse.
cascade
Yes, goodness gracious.
of things. So some people certainly are aware that they feel lonely, that they feel as if they're put on the shelf. And that leads to depression. It leads them, perhaps they don't want to take their medication or try hard to take care of themselves.
Give me a scenario, although undoubtedly there's thousands of scenarios, but give me a typical scenario of why a person is in that circumstance. What factor or factors led to that circumstance?
Well, as we get older, and I want to emphasize that getting older is not just about loss, but there are things that can happen as you get older, like life changes. Perhaps a spouse has died. A circle of family and friends has diminished. We have a lot of people, adults, whose younger family members no longer live in the Bronx.
I was going to say the kids move away.
Kids move away. It's true of any borough. Brooklyn people might move to Long Island. Lots of people in the Bronx move to Westchester, for example. So people live alone. They may be more isolated because of mobility problems. The Bronx is a little hilly. And if you can't get out of the house, you stop seeing as many people as you used to.
And certainly, you talk about hills, we don't even have to go that far. Many people live in walk-ups.
Yes.
And then what do you do? Danielle, maybe you can, since you're the Bronx person, maybe you can characterize Bronx seniors. Is there a difference between some of the issues in the Bronx? Are some of them more pronounced maybe than you might find in Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, or Staten Island? Or is really the population the same and we just happen to be talking about the Bronx?
I think a number of the issues are the same. However, one of the unique challenges that we have in the Bronx is transportation. It isn't as easy. The connections aren't as easy. The surface transportation and the subways and maneuvering that and getting across the borough, the size of the borough. And so I think that presents some unique challenges for seniors to remain able to continue to get out and access different services in the community.
Is it better now or worse now than maybe you had said that you've been in JASA for a while? Is it better now or worse conditions for seniors in their mobility, in their being able to access services and things like that?
I think people are living longer, and so as people are living longer, we're seeing more people becoming frailer in the community. We're hopeful that we're able to engage them early on so that we can help them, create plans and get services in place. But far too often we identify people at a time of crisis where they really have been so isolated in the community. There may be hoarding going on, there may be other issues at play, where their health is really deteriorated, and we come in at a time of crisis.
How difficult is it, if you become aware, whether it be a friend or a relative says, look, I can't get my mom to go to the senior center, or my dad or whomever it is to go to the senior center, and you say, gee, we'd like to intercede. Number one, what do you do? And number two, is it difficult to change their behavior? It's difficult to change my behavior, let alone somebody who's really entrenched in a style of life for a long time.
It's very difficult. One of the first questions that I would ask somebody is, tell me a little bit about where do you want to live as you get older? Tell me a little bit about how you feel about being in your home, because I have found that people are usually very resistant because they're fearful that as soon as they open up that there's a problem, the next step will be a nursing home. So what I try to say is, if you want to remain at home, we want you to remain at home. And there's so many community resources that can help you, but we want to make sure that you're doing it safely. So let's create a plan together to make sure that you're engaged, that you have services, and that you can safely age in your home.
Citywide, are there new, we just heard from Ms. Palmisano about resources. There are resources available. Citywide, are resources available? Do you feel satisfied even in the Bronx that we've got enough resources available?
It's a little bit of a conundrum. We have, if you're in New York
Please
City.
tell.
Okay.
Spill your guts.
Okay. We have a lot of services for old people in New York City, but it's not enough anyway.
Right.
That's
I was going to. We were talking before the show, and I was going to ask you. You told me how many seniors you serve, and I said, and if we increased your budget, by 100%, you'd serve
more.
twice as many.
Exactly.
And there are enough out there to be served.
Absolutely.
Let's talk about the changing nature of care. She talked about, maybe there's new ways of reaching them. There's new technology. What's new out? Is there anything new out there, or is it simply get out and come to the senior center in terms of their care?
Well, it's in addition to, there are other services in addition to senior centers. For example, there's social adult daycare programs for people who have Alzheimer's disease. There are our own mental health clinic to help people with depression. There are caregiver programs to support family caregivers who are caring for an elderly person who needs assistance. And that doesn't just help the caregiver, but it helps the person who needs the help.
We did a show a little while back on new devices, technological devices, healthcare devices that allow doctors to do
telehealth.
Remote. There's all different things. You can do your blood pressure and zip, the thing goes right to the doctor, and they know. I thought, well, this is a tremendous thing because people can be monitored and be cared for. But in light of this, there's probably a downside because even if, so you're going to the doctor, you're not going for fun and games, that means somebody has a reason to get out of the house. So I'm thinking that all that great technology, there's a downside because, well, then I don't have to go to the doctor as often as I did. Am I correct in thinking that?
Well, it's kind of a mixed response. Some people take to it very easily. They love it. They just sort of check in. We've had the experience of where we put it into a senior center, I think, and into a NORC program. I don't know if you're familiar with that acronym.
Of course.
Okay.
Well, it doesn't matter whether I am. You should say it for our viewers.
A NORC program, NORC stands for Naturally Occurring Retirement Community. And, for example, Co-op City is a NORC because of the 50-some-odd thousand people who live there. 12,000 are age 60 and older. And NORC means it's not senior housing, but it's a place where people move in and where they've grown old. So in a place like that, where there's a lot of traffic, people going in and out of the office, they like those telehealth programs. How they work individually in the home, I would say, varies with the individual. For some people, it's absolutely true that getting out and seeing the doctor is it's a reason for them to get out of
Well,
their
that's
homes.
what I was saying. So maybe there is some advantage
There
to
could
it.
be a downside to it because that eliminates that.
Going back to the kind of characterizing the borough of the Bronx, we have such beautiful diversity in the Bronx. And, I wonder if, seniors who are used to living with people of their own ethnicity, and then they go to a senior center, much like a child who goes to school, and all of a sudden there's different types of people. Child may be a little more readily able to adapt to new types of people. Do you find those kinds of issues between seniors?
I think it varies community to community, yes. I mean, one of the things that we do in all of our programs is make sure that they respond to the communities that we're serving. So whether it be a language preference, whether it be a certain kind of holiday celebration or different cultural events, so that people do feel comfortable. And, we have seniors involved, they volunteer, they help take ownership in some of the programs that we offer, which makes it easier.
Which segues perfectly into really asking you about, there are 7 JASA senior centers in the Bronx. Describe what they are and what do people find when they walk in, and not only recreational things, but give me the whole range of support systems that might exist there.
Sure. In addition to having a congregate meal, they offer a variety of educational programs, recreational programs. There's health promotions, there's walking clubs, there's book clubs, computer courses. We've done courses on tablet use and how to use smartphones. At one of our centers recently, there was a senior selfie initiative to get seniors involved in some popular tech
Jim,
trends.
sorry we didn't have that. I'd have shown those pictures in a second. Are you kidding?
So, the centers really, provide the services that the seniors are interested in. And the seniors are a driving force in what the program looks like.
I want to get back to that, but I'm so tempted to get right to the core of the administrative issue. Funding, are we doing okay? Are you struggling every day? These are, to me, lifeblood services for many of the people that we all hold most dear. How are we doing with keeping the 7 centers in the Bronx open and healthy and running?
We could always use more money.
But how did I know?
Yeah, really, that was a gimme. That was something.
Right.
But so for example, we look for other opportunities. We ask our legislators for grants to help support, in the senior centers in particular, to help support the recreational and educational programming.
Are some of the programs self-funded? In other words, like you go to summer camp or you go to a day program for kids, and they pay, or is it really all free? How does that work?
Well, the senior centers are funded primarily by the Department for the Aging.
Right.
With additional funding that comes in either through, let's say, legislative grants.
It's like $2 for lunch, that kind of thing.
It's as of $2 in
$2 or $1.50.
or $1.50. Yeah,
right.
and it's a voluntary contribution. Nobody is obligated to pay, but we ask for it to help support the program. And trips, of course, there can be a fee for some trips, but
Sure.
activities in general, they're free. That's how it works.
Okay, now back. I'm sorry, I had
Yep.
to interject that, but back to Ms. Palmisano and talking about the programs. What programs have the most effect? In other words, we were talking before the show, and you were talking about that you love your job because you really see the effect. When you have a program in place, there must be something that you say, this is a winner every time we run it. What works really well for senior citizens?
You know, I think it's hard to narrow it down because when we talk about seniors, we're talking about people from the age of 60 to 100 plus. And so the needs and the interests within a 40-year age range are so different. When we're talking about younger people, younger seniors, 60 years old, just retiring, there's a lot of interest in recreational programs, in getting information on what to expect in retirement, on insurance plans and different kinds of things like that. When we're talking about someone who is frail and isolated and homebound, we help link them to telephone reassurance programs. We help them identify,
Telephone reassurance
programs where volunteers will call them, or they can volunteer to call other homebound seniors. We really
just to say hello,
just
and
to say
how you
hello,
doing,
just to have a friendly caller.
Yeah. How the Mets doing, how the Yankees doing, whatever makes sense.
Whatever, right.
Well, you'll remember that's the call I'm going to need.
We help people identify what their sense of purpose is and keep them going, keep them connected to their community. We have a program in Co-op City, we have an Escort program for homebound seniors for our holiday events where social workers invite a date essentially to whatever holiday we're celebrating. They go out, we provide transportation, and they escort that homebound senior out to a Thanksgiving Day luncheon or a holiday party, a New Year celebration. So, for people at that point in their life, those services are really beneficial.
Are there enough, I don't know which one of you should answer this, are there enough volunteers, or who are the volunteers? Tell me something about that.
We have volunteers of all ages.
So any of our viewers who says, you know what, I'm going to do something good, I'd like it. And they could make some phone calls.
They can call up JASA, and
we'll post the contact info. Jane's got all that, the website and everything. We're going to put that up on the screen.
And most importantly, maybe, is the fact that in our senior centers, we have volunteers who are over the age of 90. That's a growing population of people who are looking for, they want to be involved. They want to be. That
sense of purpose is so, and you addressed it already a couple of times, is so important.
Yes.
Even setting up the meals for their neighbors or friends. What about transportation now? Somebody lives on the outskirts of an area and says, "Listen, I'd love to go." You talked about how difficult it is to move around the Bronx, and even those of us who may be a little more able-bodied have trouble getting around the Bronx. What do you tell them?
Some programs do offer transportation.
You do.
Unfortunately, not all of our programs offer. It depends on funding.
Sure.
I wish we could.
Yeah.
We do help people access Accessoride. There's sometimes special, transportation available for special events. So it's something that really becomes key to keeping someone engaged in their community.
For you, what is the goal? I mean, you run programs and say, okay, and I know the difficulty of administrating a program, but in your mind, what are you really trying to do when you operate a JASA Center in the Bronx?
To help someone age within their community with dignity, with autonomy, to fulfill JASA's mission, and to make sure that they're safe, and that, we're identifying any needs and we're working with them, really partnering with them in their plan to age in their home.
And I will say, and folks, I'm sure you know this as well, sometimes it's a very simple thing, a musician playing music or things like that. It wakes people, certainly senior citizen, wakes them up, changes their lives. I want to ask about this Gatekeeper thing. This is part of, and I'll just say it, JASA has this Bronx Community Cares project. What is Gatekeeper training?
Well, to respond to the isolated seniors that we were identifying in the Bronx, we created an outreach initiative throughout the Bronx that targeted isolated and underserved seniors, and to provide them with information and access to community resources. And the goal of the project is to raise community awareness of the needs of the elderly, to identify people potentially at risk.
I'll let you keep going, but give me what do you do for both? One, to raise awareness, and two, to identify who those people
To
are?
raise awareness, we do a number of trainings, one of them being the Gatekeeper training.
Gatekeeper
So, training those people that are in positions to identify, the first line of response. So the lobby attendants, public safety officers, tenant association presidents, merchants, bank tellers, who may identify somebody and say, something's not right. This person might need some help.
And then what do? They call you and let you know?
They call us. We train them essentially that they don't have to be a hero. We help them identify that it's not their role to fix the problem, but if they identify it as a community resident, it is their responsibility to report it. We give them a list of contact information for their local communities, and so that a professional can go out and assess if the person's at risk.
In reading about the program, I have to tell you, and people forgive me if I'm taking too many liberties, but we talk about how it takes a village to raise a child. You know what? Maybe it takes a village to keep a senior citizen happy and healthy and living a long time. It occurred to me when reading about that, you know what? You get the store owner, somebody who manages the deli, and he sees somebody comes in who might not be doing well, right? That's a right way to look at these things.
Yeah.
All right, so go ahead. I interrupted you. So we got the two things about that you try to train the community to help, and you also try to identify the people. What else?
Well, we do trainings out in the community on various benefits and entitlements. We have gone out to small retiree groups, to tenant association meeting, to try to reach seniors who aren't coming out to senior programs. But maybe we can reach them in other ways, to give them information, to make sure that they know who to call if they need help at some point. Sometimes at those meetings, people who wouldn't necessarily reach out to call a social service agency, but they see somebody give a presentation. At the end of it, they'll come over, talk to us, and we can help assist
Do you
them.
have enough, maybe I should ask Ms. Chalfie that, but do you have enough outreach workers so that, I would think that once you get going, the phone would ring all the time. We talked about 200,000 seniors in the Bronx, but you really only got 6,500 in tow there.
Well, we don't have enough.
Oh,
And
okay.
also, by the way, this initiative is done by staff who have other full-time jobs.
Right.
This is an additional piece
right.
to what they normally do. The whole Bronx staff is committed to doing this.
So, I wanted to just interject that not only, is the need for, whether it be volunteers, it obviously is for workers, for people to be involved in social work, and then really for, again, it's a matter of community and how we're dealing with it. Let's just talk about the support from the city. Now, I don't want to make it seem like this is the only senior center, it's the only type of senior center. Is there interaction between senior centers? Is it like competitive? Give me what it's like between other senior citizen programs that are doing great jobs also. We're certainly helping you promote what you do, but there's a larger picture here.
Well, JASA alone has a big continuum of services, but we interact with all sorts of programs in the community, and it sort of goes to what you're saying. The more community is involved and engaged in supporting seniors, the better it is. So we interact with all our partners, social services agencies, hospitals, religious organizations, schools. We have a lot of intergenerational programs. That's something that gives a real good flavor to how people see that when old people live in a community, it enriches the community. When you keep people healthy and happy where they live.
Mm-hmm. And intergenerational programs, obviously, it's great for the kids, and
Yes.
it's great for the senior citizens, et cetera, et cetera. Talk to me about what would you like to do more of at the senior center? I realize if you had more funding, you could do any number of things, but what are the kinds of programs you say, you know what, this is what we're looking toward for the future?
I think more health-related programming,
Yes.
more health promotion, education, engaging people early on, preventative, health kinds of programming as well, to really engage people before things progress and try to help people age well.
Yeah,
Did you want to answer
Yeah,
that
I just
as
want
well?
to add that, really we're looking at a continuum, as Danielle pointed out. You've got people 60 and people who are 100. And they each have different needs. And we're always looking for opportunities to keep them both living as well as they can, these two groups.
We got a phone call, which used to happen periodically, but we have a phone call tonight. It is my mother who attends, and I really did not know she was going to call tonight. Hi, Mom, how are you? Is she there? She probably...
Fine, I'm very interested.
Yes, you're very interested, I'm sure. Yes, did you... she's probably listening. You should turn down the. I'm the one that taught her how to use the remote. So, Mom, turn down the TV volume. I don't know if this is going to work out.
Well, maybe I should just get off the phone. Maybe I should just get off the phone.
Do you want to ask a question? I don't know if it's going to work out.
I just wanted to say that I am.
Yes?
All I wanted to say was
She's
our
listening.
JASA program is wonderful.
See, she's
And I
listening.
just realize how lucky I am. However, there are some issues when there are certain monies that are put in front of you.
Mm-hmm.
And you are told, well, we're having a lovely lunch, but it'll be $2 for the lunch, and then it's $2 extra. And if you're coming because you need help in being walked with, and you have to pay
So there may be
$6
all
extra,
right.
we lose a few of our people.
Always playing, thank you, Mom, always playing the journalist, bringing up issues that her son didn't think of. So, I mean, this is one of the issues that we talked about some of the funding issues for various programs.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what that
Are
is
you familiar with what she
referring
was
to.
referring to?
There might have been a special event.
Yeah, it might have been a special event.
A
we had,
special
yeah.
event, so some of our friends may not have been prepared.
There
for
may
some
have
of
been
it.
an extra fee,
But I can
I'm
tell
not
you what she
sure.
didn't say, and she was listening to the feedback, so it was a little bit difficult, is that I know for me, as her son, this is a lifesaver program, that she does it every day, and she goes with her friends every day, and it's an absolutely tremendous program. Where are, do we have time to do this? Where are the 7 JASA programs in the Bronx?
We have 3 centers in Co-op City, Bay Eden Senior Center, Van Cortlandt Senior Center, Throgs Neck Senior Center, and Sue Ginsburg Senior
Right,
Center.
and my mom is in the Van Cortlandt Center, not in Riverdale there, which is not correct. Anyway, so where are we at now? We're going to put up, we have contact information, and this is for seniors, for potential volunteers, for caregivers, right?
Yes, yes. Anybody either who is a senior or who loves a senior or has an interest in helping a senior, please call. And, if the person is interested in volunteering, we have lots of opportunities for that.
Danielle Palmisano, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Amy Chalfie, thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. And we all of us, appreciate what you do for senior citizens in the Bronx and the city of New York.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Folks,
giving us this opportunity.
if you have further comments or questions on anything you heard on tonight's show or anything going on in the Bronx, then you email them to us at bronxtalk@bronxnet.org, or you post them on our Facebook page, and we'll read those on the air during a future edition of our program. Also, you can become a fan of Bronx Talk on Facebook, and you can also contact us via email or see our archives at bronxnet.org and check out the Bronx Talk link on the bottom right navigation bar. Now, next week, we'll have an exclusive look at the Jerome Park Reservoir and the ongoing saga of the Croton filtration plant in the Bronx. I have info and photos that you will not see anywhere else. It's a story we've covered for years, and you'll get the latest next Monday night. And make a note that Borough President Ruben Diaz Jr. will be with us on July 14th. And that's always a special night when the Borough President is here. Thanks to producer Jane Filoro, our director is Shirley Arietta. We'll see you next week. Good night.
Jimmy can't sing, and Tommy can't dance. So we're gonna put some ants in their pants.
Kids will spend 22 minutes watching us, the super duper party troopers, sing about ants in their pants.
Isn't that funny? Ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants, they've got ants in their pants.
Brushing for 2 minutes now can save your child from severe tooth pain later. 2 minutes twice a day.